Hey everybody, this is Stephen with Junior Achievement of North Florida, here with another Career Speaker Series interview. Today I have Basil sharing a little bit more of his job story. Basil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, Stephen, it's my pleasure. As
Awesome.
you probably know, Junior Achievement is one of those um, services to our children that I really enjoy participating in. So this is a pleasure for me. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. So the very first part of our interview is just a basic introduction of yourself. Name, job, family, personal information, where you're from. Share with us.
All right. So as you said, my name is Basil. Last name is Smith. I am originally from Jamaica. Uh, Grew up in the rural part of Jamaica. We had no running water or electricity, believe it or not.
Hmm.
And but somehow we managed. My parents, especially my mother, education was absolutely important. So when all the chores were done, milking the cow and handling the chickens and what have you, had to get to school by 9 a.m. And that was not an option. Had to get there. And if I get to school late, there's a principal with his strap, if you will,
Oh, wow.
at the entrance. So, I had to, even at that age and stage, had to learn time management because I had to get to school by 9 o'clock,
Right.
and there was no option. That was a tremendous part of my upbringing. What else do you want? Where I work?
Yeah.
I'm currently employed with CitiBank here in
Okay.
Jacksonville. I work in one of our arms of the company that serves corporations,
Okay.
and I'm involved in project management. Where I help to uh, qualify companies, if you will, who want to open an account or who have to be constantly monitored, so we know who they are, what they're doing. Just to avoid, as you probably know, terrorist financing and that kind of thing, right? So we just want to keep the whole banking process pure, so that people do banking and no illegal stuff. So I'm involved in that area of the businesses that deals with corporations, companies.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I'm looking forward to hearing more about your story. So let's go into the mindset of being a high school student. Now, were you still living in Jamaica at that time, being a high school student?
Yeah, so the educational system in Jamaica it's a little bit different from here. You have the kindergarten up to
Okay.
about 6, and then from about 6 until about, I don't know, 15, you go to what we call primary school.
Okay.
So that would probably in the US system incorporates both elementary, middle, and high school. No, sorry, elementary and middle school
Okay.
in primary school. And then when I was growing up, you take something called the Common Entrance Exam, which is, I guess, similar to the SAT. Is that SAT?
Yeah.
SAT here. So I was lucky enough, since my mom was so insistent in education, to pass the entrance exam to high school,
Okay.
technical high school at that time. And so I went away from the country to technical high school, like a different world, as you can imagine. I have running water, I have television, I have
Wow.
refrigerator. You're different, totally different world. So then went to high school for 4 years. I majored in business administration because I was honestly, I didn't want to fail,
Yes.
and to go back to the country to nothing. So I chose what at the time was the path of least resistance, was business education. I was good at accounting,
Got
and
it.
so I majored in business administration. Left high school, continued my studies. Came to the U.S. and then got up to the level of certified public accountant, CPA,
Hmm.
and then also a master's in business administration and MBA. So
Okay.
that's my education.
Wow. Okay, that's fascinating to hear. So it sounded like it was just a natural next step for you to continue your education. Is that correct?
Yeah, because when I did, quite honestly, Stephen, if I were to go back to the choice I made to do business education, I might have um, uh, chosen sciences because I'm fascinated, for example, by space. So I was telling a friend of mine, I might have become an astronaut because I'm so fascinated by space because there's so much to learn and detect and explore out there. You know, there is medicine because there's so much we don't know about the human body, about the whole field of medicine. So I might have gotten to the sciences if I were to go back. But at the time, I had to guard against not failing.
Right.
So once I got into business administration, the decision was I have to get to the top of this chain. I have to get to the top of this ladder.
Right.
This is why I became a CP and got a master's in business administration. And so here we are.
That's wonderful. So could you explain how your business management or administration connects to what your job is now with CitiBank?
Yeah. So, CPAs get in today's world, because when I was studying for doing accounting in high school, we didn't have computers. We didn't even have Excel. Okay.
Wow.
So when you're doing what Excel or computer does in fractions of a second now would take days or weeks, to do when I was doing accounting. So I'm thinking, wow, this profession, I'll have a job for the rest of my life. Well, as it turns out, came Excel, right? Then came computers. And so the accounting that I grew up with, thinking it would be a lifelong career, is now done by computers. So most CPAs now spend time, in public accounting, the Ernst and Youngs of the world and so on, the Price Waterhouses and so on, and so I saw that writing on the wall. So I decided that I need to get into something more general, and this is where I got my MBA with a management focus, international trade, that type of thing. Yeah. So now the way this applies to the accounting CPA part has nothing to do with what I do, except that, since I'm dealing with corporations and banking is about numbers, it somewhat relates, but I tell you what, the becoming any higher education path that one takes, there's a certain amount of discipline that's involved, certain amount of dedication. One has to be persistent, because things always come, no matter what you're doing, issues come up that you have to overcome. And so once you've achieved that level, wherever it is, accounting, whatever, then you've had that test, you've had that experience. And so that serves me, that discipline will serve me for the rest of my life in anything that I do. Right? Now, accounting, CPA stuff has a lot of numbers and math involved, and math in itself is a discipline that we use at all stages of life. Just making a decision as to whether to buy a car or what have you. All of those skills come into play. So I still use those all the time, even though I don't do CPA work as such professionally. Now, the master's in business administration, with a focus on management, prepared me to deal with people. So management, supervision, people management, all of that. So then that, of course, serves me, because I've managed teams up to when I first started Citi, we had 30 people reporting to me, with 3 direct reports. Wow. So all of those skills became very useful. And even though in this current job, I am what we call an individual contributor, I don't manage people, but at the senior level, I'm dealing with people across. It is an international role, so I'm dealing with people in Dublin. As a matter of fact, having these conference calls, I just sit back and enjoy the different accents, because it's almost entertainment. People from India, people from Dublin, people from Mexico, all over the place. So that's fun. So the skills, the management skills that I learned in the MBA program gives me the skills to deal with people at all levels of the organization, across cultures, internationally. Yeah.
That's so cool to hear, and even this hearing more about your job now, and where you obviously took practical steps where you gained literal knowledge, but at the same time there was also just life skills that you have also developed, and where it's not just something that you learned from a textbook. It's just like going through life, it really helps you as you keep everything growing. now just about how your job has gone through a transition from before COVID-19 and then also in the midst of COVID-19?
Mhm. Yeah. So, like most all jobs these days, COVID-19 has really affected. And so
Yes.
the effect that we've gone through at Citi is just in general, but in my ears in particular. And by the way, I started this job in the middle of May. So before that, I was managing the suppliers who made all of our credit cards for North America.
Oh,
And
wow.
CitiBank has a huge credit card portfolio. So, every day, we would send orders to the supplier
Mhm.
in Atlanta, and they would produce the millions of cards that people apply for or need to be renewed or what have you. So that's what I did until the middle of May. And so the challenge for Citi was to beef up the systems that we have to accommodate everybody working from home. Before that, randomly, like I would work from home a couple of days a week out of 5 days, two or so.
Right.
Then, so when you have almost everybody in the company internationally working from home 5 days per week, that was a tremendous strain on the system. So they had to beef the system up to accommodate this. That's number one. So in the beginning, it was choppy. You could get on, you couldn't get on. Even now there are hiccups, but it's much better.
Yeah.
And so that affected, the COVID situation affected that. And then we used to travel a lot. I used to travel to the supplier, for example, to
Okay.
do different checks to make sure that they are complying with federal regulations. Because if they don't, it becomes our problem.
Yeah.
So we would go and we do these compliance checks, and then we would go visit them, and they would give us a quarterly report. So of course, all of that is gone. So it's all done, via either just by voice conference calls, or in those cases where video is available, we do it by video. So that definitely affects.
Got it. Yeah, it really is fascinating to hear about all the different types of corporations. I don't believe there's been one corporation that COVID-19 has not affected.
Absolutely, yes.
Everybody in every capacity has been affected in some form or manner. So now
Yes.
as we're transitioning towards the end of the interview, what's something that you've really seen that's been a positive, whether it be professionally or personally, that you really hope that we kind of all adopt as we face a new normal?
You mean because of the COVID situation?
Yes, sir.
Um, you know, what I think is, what fascinates me is, here we are in the middle of the racial situation, and forgive me for touching on that for a minute. And there's, on one side, there's a group of people striving for recognition and striving for improved conditions and so on, you know and we see the international response to that.
Yeah.
And I personally feel that, yeah, a lot of these changes were due. But
Mhm.
because of COVID, and because people are quote unquote locked down, restricted to movement, and we've heard psychologists talk all the time these days about the effect that not seeing other people, being with them, even if you don't know them, going to the movie theater, going to the
Right.
symphony, which I frequent a lot, and just being with people, you don't know them, they don't know you, but what that does to the human spirit. And I'm thinking that once we get back to that newish normal, where we can go out again, even if we are face mask,
Right.
there is, I believe, going to be a general feeling of goodwill, because we're seeing other people. So
Yeah.
when before we probably just took people for granted, here we are appreciating just being out there, with other people, even
Right.
we don't know them. And it doesn't matter what their color is, doesn't matter what who they are. It's another person.
Right.
I know for me, just driving around, knowing that in that car that's beside me, behind me, in front of me, there is a person you know, gives me a certain sense of well-being because, you know, there are other people out there,
Right.
you know. So I'm hoping that all of this will bring people together and give all of us a better sense of appreciation for each other, regardless who we are.
That's good, Basil. So
Yeah.
let's move to our final question, and it's um, about really finances. We're obviously kind of in volatile times. Job security is not at an all-time high. And
Yeah.
so can you explain to students why is it so important to focus on finances, not only during a rainy day, but also before a rainy day?
Yeah. Well, you know, one of the basic principles that my mom in the country taught us in very simplistic, but as I become more aware in life, very powerful terms. She said to us, and I'm the eldest of eight, by the way. She said to us, if you have $1, you save 5 cents, yeah, and curtail your spending to 95 cents. Right? Now, Stephen, if you think about that very basic, simple statement, you realize how powerful it is. It means that you're not only saving for a rainy day, right, as we say, but you are also making sure that if you don't have it, you don't spend.
Right.
You see? Then hope is of credit doesn't even enter the picture. You
Yeah.
see? No, we know that the financial in 2009 or so on, was because people were spending more than they could even afford. You see,
Right.
and it manifests itself in real estate. So that simple statement, spend what you have. But then she also tied that in with ambition, because even though you might have $1 today, if you want more and better stuff, then you should use your ambition to propel you to earn more. Do you see? But still save 5%. You see, and still make sure that you spend within your means. So my advice, one of the things that I do for adults, and when I do high school junior achievement, I
Yeah.
really love the budgeting exercise,
Hmm.
because when I'm finished with a group of high school students, when we used to go face to face, I remember one girl said to me one day, "You mean my mother, single mom, my mama has to go through this every month?" Yes, she has to.
Yeah.
Do you see? Because she has to understand how much money she's earning. She has to understand what the rent is, then that will drive what kind of accommodations she can afford. She has
Mhm.
to know what the light bill is, and so on, and all the way down the line. So I have a passion for people understanding basic budgeting, because
Hmm.
that is tied up with your sense of freedom. Because if you have huge credit card bills, you can't be free. You can't afford to take a sick day because you have to go out and work, because you're spending more beyond your means. Do you see? So the
Mhm.
key is to spend within your means, have the ambition to earn more,
Hmm.
yeah, and make sure that you don't overburden yourself, so that when times become tough, you have your 5% or 10% that you can draw on, and you don't have to feel this anxiety because
Yeah.
you have now your credit card bills that you're maxed out and you can't pay, because you didn't live within your means. So that for me is just basic financial advice and basic personal freedom, believe it or not.
Yeah. Absolutely. Those are some wonderful, wise words to end off on. And thank you so much for sharing your story, Basil. It's fascinating to hear, and how you've now working at Citigroup or Citibank, excuse me. And so thank you so much for just sharing everything that you have with all these students. And so we really appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure. And I just want to say, to remind the students that it is key to stay in school,
Mm.
live your dream, get your education, because that is a foundation that nobody can take away from you for the rest of your life. And even if you branch off into, like, I got the CPA certificate, I don't use it very much, but that gives me the confidence that anything I want to do, I
Right.
can do. Do you
Right.
see, going forward? So yeah, that's my message to students. And live within your means.
Within our means. That's awesome. Well,
All right.
Basil,
Thank you, Stephen.
thank you
My
so much.
pleasure.
Stay safe out there.
Thanks. All right. Bye.